I live alone in a small apartment complex on the edge of a quiet suburb in the Midwest. It's the kind of place where everything shuts down early. After 9 p.m., the streets go empty, and the loudest sound you usually hear is someone's dryer thumping through the wall. My routine back then was boring in the best way. I worked a regular office job, got home around 6, reheated leftovers, and watched whatever was half interesting on TV until I fell asleep. Most nights were exactly the same. That's part of why What Happened stood out so much. I'd been using a dating app on and off for a while. Nothing serious. Mostly short conversations that never went anywhere. Then I matched with a guy named Evan. His profile was sparse. No bio, just a couple of normal-looking photos. Nothing flashy. No obvious red flags. He messaged politely, asked normal questions, didn't push anything. We talked for a few days. Work schedules. Favorite takeout spots. He didn't overshare, didn't flirt too hard. It felt safe. Eventually, we agreed to meet for coffee. I suggested a cafe about 5 minutes from my apartment. It was public, busy, and familiar. The day of the date, everything went as planned. I parked on the street, walked inside, and recognized him immediately. He looked exactly like his photos. Clean cut. Calm. No weird energy. We talked for about an hour. Nothing memorable, nothing alarming. Toward the end, he leaned back in his chair and said casually, "Your building is actually quieter than I expected." I remember pausing just for a second. I asked what he meant. He shrugged and said, "Just the area around here. Most places like this have more noise." I let it go. It made sense. The cafe was close to my apartment, and people say things like that all the time. I didn't correct him or ask anything else. We said goodbye outside. No hug. No pressure to extend the date. He walked to his car and I walked to mine. I drove home the same way I always did, turning into my complex just as the sun was starting to dip behind the trees. When I got inside my apartment, I kicked off my shoes, dropped my bag by the door, and went straight to the kitchen. I remember feeling relieved. The date wasn't bad, but I was glad to be home. Alone. About 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Made it home okay? I hadn't told him I was home yet. I stared at the message longer than I probably should have. Then I told myself I was overthinking it. The cafe was close. He could have assumed. I replied with a simple, "Yeah." He sent back a thumbs-up emoji. That was it. The next day was normal. Work, emails, lunch at my desk. That night, I cooked pasta and watched TV with the lights mostly off like I usually did. Around 9 p.m., my phone buzzed again. How was the pasta? I actually checked the message twice to make sure I was reading it right. I hadn't told him I was cooking. I hadn't posted anything online. I typed out a response, deleted it, then finally asked how he knew. There was a pause. Long enough that I put my phone down. Then it buzzed again. "You mentioned you like cooking." Just guessing. That explanation made sense. I told myself it made sense. Still, I didn't respond after that. I turned the TV down and listened to the apartment. That's when I heard footsteps in the hallway outside my door. Not loud. Just slow. Someone walking past, stopping briefly, then continuing. It wasn't unusual. People came and went all the time. But for some reason, I didn't move until the sound faded. Later that night, before bed, I opened my door to take the trash out. That's when I noticed my doormat was crooked. Turned slightly, like it had been nudged or stepped on. I stood there longer than I meant to, staring down at it. I knew how I usually left it. Straight. Always straight. I adjusted it, locked the door, and told myself to stop being paranoid. The next morning, I woke up to another message. "Did you sleep okay?" I hadn't replied to him since the night before. I didn't answer that one either. That evening, I got home a little later than usual. The parking lot was mostly empty, the sky already dark. I walked up the stairs, keys in hand, listening to my own footsteps echo. As I reached my door, I noticed something that made my stomach tighten. The peephole cover, something I never touched, was slid open. And I was absolutely sure I hadn't left it that way. I stood there for a few seconds, staring at the peephole cover. It was the kind that slides shut from the inside. I never touched it. I liked being able to look out without thinking about it. Seeing it closed meant someone had moved it. I unlocked the door anyway. I didn't know why. Muscle memory maybe. The apartment was dark and quiet. I stepped inside and locked the door behind me. I flipped on the living room light. Everything looked normal. Couch, coffee table, shoes by the wall. I stood there longer than I needed to. Then my phone vibrated in my hand. A text. I saw you get home late today. I felt my chest tighten. I didn't reply. I walked to the kitchen and grabbed the largest knife I had. I hated how calm my hands were. That scared me more than anything. Another buzz. You should lock your door. I looked at the lock. The deadbolt was already turned. I typed, "Stop texting me," and hit send. The typing bubble appeared immediately. I just want to talk. I turned the TV on for noise. Low volume. Just enough to break the silence. That's when I heard it. A soft knock. Not loud. Not urgent. Just one slow tap against the door. I froze. Another knock. Same pace. Same pressure. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Then a voice. Quiet. Right on the other side of the door. Hey, it's me. I recognized it instantly. It was Evan. My phone buzzed again. I'm right outside. I backed away from the door until I hit the kitchen counter. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I didn't answer. I didn't make a sound. He knocked again. Harder this time. Can you open the door? He asked. His voice was calm. Almost friendly. I think we got off on the wrong foot. I stayed quiet. I know you're home, he said. Your lights are on. I realized then I'd never closed the blinds. He laughed softly. Not amused. Just casual. I'm not here to hurt you. That was when I called 911. I kept the phone pressed to my ear, whispering my address. I told the dispatcher there was a man at my door who wouldn't leave. She told me officers were on the way and to stay inside. While I was on the phone, he tried the door handle. What? Then again. It was locked. He stopped. For a few seconds there was nothing. Then I heard his footsteps move away from the door. I thought he was leaving. Then I heard them again. Slower. Closer. They stopped right outside my bedroom window. My apartment was on the first floor. I turned off the TV. Total silence. My phone buzzed. I can hear your breathing. I ran to the bathroom and locked myself inside. I crouched in the tub with the knife in one hand and my phone in the other. I could hear him outside walking along the wall. Then a sharp sound. The dispatcher was still talking to me, but her voice sounded far away. I told her he was at my window. She told me to stay on the line. I heard the screen shift. Then his voice again. Right outside the glass. You should have just answered me. A loud knock came from the front door. Police department. I didn't wait. I ran out of the bathroom, through the living room, and unlocked the door. 2 officers stood there with their hands on their belts. They asked if I was okay. I nodded. I couldn't speak. They swept the apartment. Then the outside. They found shoe prints in the dirt beneath my bedroom window. Fresh. Pointing toward the parking lot. They asked if I knew who it was. I told them everything. The messages. The knocking. They took my phone and scrolled through the texts. One of them frowned. Did he send you this while we were knocking? He asked. I looked. The message timestamp matched exactly. Yes, I said. They asked where his car was. I didn't know. I'd never seen it up close. They checked the lot. He was gone. The officers stayed for a while. They told me to keep my doors locked and call if he came back. They said they'd file a report. Before they left, one of them asked if I wanted to stay somewhere else for the night. I packed a bag in 10 minutes and went to my sister's place across town. I didn't sleep. The next day the police called. They couldn't trace the dating profile. The account was deleted. The number he texted from was a prepaid phone. No name attached. I took the rest of the week off work. When I went back to my apartment to grab more clothes, the manager met me there. She said maintenance had checked something earlier that morning. Someone had been accessing the attic crawlspace above my unit. There were scuff marks near the access panel in the hallway. An insulation disturbed above my bedroom. They couldn't say how long it had been like that. I moved out 2 weeks later. New place. New number. New routines. I didn't use dating apps again. About 3 months after that, I received an email from an unfamiliar address. No subject line. Just one sentence. Still quieter than I expected. I never found out who he really was. And I never went back to that apartment complex. I rented a 2-bedroom apartment in a mid-sized city in the Pacific Northwest. Nothing special. Second floor. Thin walls. The kind of place where you hear your neighbors cough, but everyone pretends they don't notice. I worked regular hours. Monday through Friday. Out the door at 7:30, back by a little after 6. I liked routines. Predictable noise. Predictable silence. After my last roommate moved out, I put the spare room up on Craigslist. Simple post. Month to month. No pets. No parties. I got a lot of replies, most of them bad. Then one stood out. His name was Daniel. His email was short. Polite. No weird phrasing. He said he worked remote tech support. Quiet lifestyle. Clean. He asked normal questions about rent, utilities, parking. We met in person a few days later. He showed up exactly on time. Early 30s. Average height. Plain clothes. No strong smell. No nervous energy. He didn't walk around touching things or opening drawers. He sat on the couch and kept his hands folded. We talked for maybe 20 minutes. He didn't overshare. Didn't joke much. Just answered questions. Calm voice. Eye contact, but not too much. I checked his references. Former landlord. Old coworker. Both said he was quiet and reliable. He moved in the following weekend. The first few weeks were uneventful. That's important. Nothing happened right away. Daniel kept to himself. Stayed in his room most of the day. Sometimes I heard his keyboard through the wall. Sometimes low voices through headphones. He cleaned up after himself. Paid rent early. We barely spoke. Small talk in the kitchen. Weather. Internet speed. That was it. Most nights I came home, cooked dinner, and watched TV in the living room. Daniel stayed in his room with the door closed. The first thing that felt off happened about a month in. I came home from work and found the front door unlocked. I knew I locked it that morning. I always did. I even checked the knob out of habit. I asked Daniel about it while we were both in the kitchen. He looked genuinely confused. I didn't go out today, he said. I've been working. I checked his room. His shoes were still there. His jacket was hanging where it always was. I told myself I must have made a mistake. A few days later, he made a comment that stuck with me. I was heating leftovers and he walked in, grabbed a glass of water and said, "You got home later than usual yesterday." I asked how he knew. He shrugged. "I heard you come in around 6:40. I got home at 6:42. I laughed it off. Thin walls. Normal observation. But the precision bothered me more than I wanted to admit. After that, it kept happening. You're off on Fridays, right? Your alarm goes off at 6:10. You usually shower before bed, not in the morning. None of these things were secrets. Anyone living together could notice them. Still, it felt like too much attention for someone who barely spoke to me. Then things started moving. Small things. Easy to dismiss. I'd leave my phone charger plugged into the outlet by the couch. Come home and find it unplugged, neatly wrapped on the table. My work badge wouldn't be where I left it. Then it would show up later on the counter. One night, I came home and my bedroom door was open. I never left it open. Ever. I stood in the hallway listening. Nothing sounded out of place. I asked Daniel if he'd been in my room. He looked surprised. No, he said. Why would I go in there? He sounded offended, not defensive. I apologized. I hated that I did. That night, I locked my bedroom door before going to sleep. Sometime after midnight, I woke up. No sound. Just that feeling that pulled me out of sleep. I listened. Then I heard it. A soft sound outside my door. Not footsteps. Not knocking. Breathing. Slow. Controlled. Close. I didn't move. I didn't even open my eyes. After maybe 10 seconds, it stopped. In the morning, my door was unlocked. I knew I had locked it. I checked my laptop activity that afternoon at work. Just curiosity. Nothing else. There were files opened overnight. Files I hadn't touched in weeks. Time stamps between 1 o'clock and 2:30 a.m. I felt sick sitting at my desk staring at the screen. That night, I came home and listened before opening the door. Everything sounded normal. Daniel's door was closed. No noise. I went to bed with my phone charging next to me and my door locked. Sometime around 2 a.m. I woke up again. This time the breathing was louder. Right outside my door. And then I heard my doorknob turn. I froze in bed, staring at the dark outline of my door. The knob turned slowly. Just a little. Then stopped. I didn't move. I didn't reach for my phone. I didn't breathe. The knob turned again. This time harder. Then it rattled. I sat up and said his name. Daniel. The rattling stopped immediately. Silence. I waited. 30 seconds. Maybe more. Then I heard footsteps moving away from my door. Slow. Unhurried. Like he knew I wasn't going anywhere. I grabbed my phone and locked it against my chest. I didn't call the police. I don't know why. I think part of me was still trying to convince myself there was a normal explanation. In the morning, Daniel acted like nothing happened. He was in the kitchen when I came out. Making coffee. Calm. Normal. Morning, he said. I looked at his hands. No shaking. No tension. I asked him straight out if he had tried to come into my room the night before. He stared at me for a second too long. Then he smiled. Just slightly. No, he said. I was asleep. I went to work early that day. I didn't feel safe in my own apartment anymore. At my desk, I checked my laptop again. More activity overnight. More files opened. One folder I didn't recognize. Inside it were screenshots. My emails. My calendar. My work login screen. Then photos. Photos of me. Taken inside the apartment. One of me on the couch. One of me at the kitchen counter. One of me asleep in bed. All from angles that made my stomach drop. Doorway height. Corner height. Standing positions. I called the police from the stairwell outside my office. They met me at the apartment that afternoon. Daniel wasn't home. The officers searched his room. They found a laptop. Multiple phones. External hard drives. One of the officers asked me to step outside while they looked through them. When they came back out, their faces were different. They asked me how long Daniel had lived with me. Then they asked if I'd noticed him in the apartment while I was asleep. They told me they'd found videos. Hours of footage. from inside my room, from the hallway, from the living room, all taken at night. The cameras were small, easy to hide. One was taped behind an air vent, another inside a smoke detector. They asked if I wanted to press charges. I said yes. They put out a bulletin for Daniel, but he never came back. I packed a bag and stayed with a friend that night. The next day, the apartment manager called me. She said maintenance had checked the attic crawlspace above my unit. There were sleeping bags up there, empty food wrappers, used batteries. Someone had been living above my apartment. They couldn't say how long. The police never found Daniel. His name wasn't real. His references were fake. The landlord number went to a prepaid phone. A month later, I broke the lease and moved out. I thought it was over. 6 months after that, I was at my new place unpacking boxes. I found something in the bottom of one, a USB drive. I didn't recognize it. I plugged it into my laptop. There was one file, a video. It was me, sleeping, recorded the night before. I live alone in a small single-story rental on the outskirts of town. Not rural but not busy either. A lot of older houses, long driveways, streetlights spaced far apart. At night, it gets quiet enough that you can hear cars half a mile away. I work from home 3 days a week. On those days, my routine barely changes. Wake up around 7:30. Coffee, emails, lunch at my desk. I don't go out much. I like knowing where everything is. That's why I decided to sell my old laptop online. It was still in good condition. I posted it on Craigslist. Cash only. Local pickup. Public place. Within an hour I got a reply. The email was short. Still available? I can pick it up today. Nothing strange about that. We exchanged a few messages. He asked about specs. I answered. He didn't negotiate. Didn't ask for discounts. He just wanted to know where to meet. I suggested a coffee shop near the highway. Busy. Cameras. People around. He agreed. Then he asked, "What time do you usually leave your house?" I paused when I read that. I assumed he meant what time I could meet. So I replied with a time window. A minute later, he followed up. "No, I mean what time do you leave your house?" I stared at the screen. That wasn't a normal question. I typed out a response, deleted it, then said we could meet at 4:30. There was a long pause. Then he replied, "That should work." I didn't like the wording, but I ignored it. About an hour before the meetup, I got another message. "Which entrance do you use?" That's when I canceled. I told him something came up and I couldn't make it. I expected an annoyed response or no response at all. Instead, he wrote back almost immediately. "That's disappointing." Just that. No punctuation. I didn't reply. I closed my laptop and went back to work. Around 3 o'clock, I stood up to get coffee and noticed how quiet the house felt. I sat back down. My phone buzzed. A new message. Same email thread. "You're wearing a gray shirt today." I felt a jolt of panic. I was wearing a gray shirt. One I hadn't mentioned. One that wasn't visible in any photos online. I stood up and looked out the front window. Nothing. The street was empty. I pulled the blinds shut anyway. Another message came in. "You should close the back ones too." My heart started pounding. I moved slowly toward the back of the house. The blinds there were still open. I closed them. Then I locked the back door. My phone buzzed again. "I can still see you." I didn't respond. I grabbed my keys and my wallet, then stopped. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know if he was watching the front or the back. I walked into the bathroom and locked the door. I sat on the edge of the tub, phone shaking in my hands. Another message. "Don't call anyone." That's when I called 911. I whispered my address. I told the dispatcher someone was watching me. She told me officers were on the way and to stay inside. While I was on the phone, I heard something outside. Footsteps on gravel. Slow. Heavy. They stopped near the side of the house. I heard a soft knock. Not on the door. On the wall. The dispatcher told me to stay where I was. Then my phone vibrated again. I don't like it when you ignore me. The footsteps moved. Closer. Toward the back door. I heard the handle jiggle once. Then twice. I pressed myself against the bathroom wall and held my breath. The handle stopped moving. Silence again. Then I heard something that made my stomach drop. A faint scraping sound. Right outside the bathroom window. And then a shadow passed across the frosted glass. I froze in the bathroom, staring at the window. The shadow moved slowly. Left to right. Then stopped. I whispered into the phone that he was right outside. The dispatcher told me officers were 2 minutes away. She told me not to move. Another message came in. You locked the wrong door. My heart started racing. I realized the bathroom window didn't lock properly. I'd never fixed it because nothing had ever happened before. The scraping got louder. Then a sharp tap. Once. Twice. I backed away until I hit the opposite wall. The shower curtain rustled behind me. I held the phone so tight my hand hurt. The tapping stopped. Silence. Then the glass rattled. Not hard. Controlled. Like someone testing it. I heard him speak. Not loud. Not angry. Right outside the window. I told you not to ignore me. I screamed. The dispatcher heard it. She told me to stay on the line. The window frame creaked. The screen bent inward. I grabbed a towel rack and yanked it off the wall. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I just needed something in my hands. The window popped open. Cold air rushed in. I saw part of his face. Just enough. Mel. Hood pulled tight. Eyes focused. Come. He tried to reach in. I swung the towel rack as hard as I could. It hit the window frame. Not him. He pulled his arm back. I don't want to hurt you, he said. I just need you to listen. A loud knock hit the front door. Police department. He jerked away from the window instantly. I heard his footsteps take off down the side of the house. I ran out of the bathroom and toward the front door, slipping on the hardwood. I unlocked it and pulled it open. 2 officers rushed in with their weapons drawn. I collapsed against the wall. They cleared the house. Then the yard. They found footprints in the gravel along the side of the house. Fresh. Leading toward the street. They asked about the messages. I showed them my phone. One of the officers frowned. These came in while we were on our way, he said. They searched the area. No one nearby. No parked cars that didn't belong. They took my laptop and phone to document everything. They asked about the Craigslist listing. I told them I'd deleted it. They asked if I recognized the email address. I didn't. Before they left, one of the officers checked the bathroom window again. The screen was bent inward. There were fingerprints on the glass. They told me to stay somewhere else that night. I packed a bag and drove to a hotel near the highway. I didn't sleep. The next day, a detective called me. The Craigslist account was gone. The email address traced back to a public Wi-Fi network at a grocery store parking lot. No cameras caught his face. A few days later, I went back to the house with a friend to get the rest of my things. That's when we noticed something else. Across the street, behind an abandoned sedan that hadn't moved in months, there were flattened patches of grass. Like someone had been sitting there for a long time. Facing my house. The detective came out and took photos. He said it could mean anything. I moved out the following week. New city. New place. I didn't tell many people where I was going. For a while nothing happened. Then one night, about 2 months later, I got an email. No subject line. Just one sentence. Next time, don't cancel. I shut my laptop and unplugged it. I never sold anything online again. And I still don't open my blinds at night.